So here's the start of a painting. I'm using half of my board. Eventually I'll saw it off, but this is for a demo in my Monday class. And I'm doing an initial drawing with a Carbothello pastel pencil because you can erase it and it doesn't pollute my colors. So I'm just quickly doing a drawing here. This is in Ellis Creek. It's in Petaluma, California. This is a location I take my my Monday class to quite a bit. I've painted this scene several times, and every time I paint it, it's a completely different experience depending on the type of day. Sunny, gray, foggy. I've had, you know, every time I paint it, it's a completely different scene. So I'm just designing right now, big shapes. Okay, so I'm starting to put this initial layer in, and I'm going to overcolor it with the intention that later on I'll bring in like the local colors. Like for instance on this tree, I'm starting with a kind of a purple, and eventually I'll come in with it's kind of a magenta. I'll come in with a green later on, and I will post the development of this painting. This is just the first stage. So I'm kind of designing, creating big shapes, not getting into a lot of detail. And I'm going from one adjacent color to the next. So now this is the light plane of that tree, and I'm looking at that in relationship to the sky. It's in light, but it's darker than the sky, so it's a silhouette. So not only am I looking at color relationships and trying not to repeat a color, I'm looking at the value also. So if it's the right color, it's the right value, the right saturation, and the right hue. So this is a scene. Everything in the scene is backlit. So that tree and the sun, actually the sun is on the right, hitting the tree on the right. But it's a little bit of a backlit because that full tree in the purple part is in shadow. So there's probably trees back there, and I put them in with a more of a neutral back there, so they stay back. This is probably the mountain back there. The hill, well, the hill, it's a hill back there. And I tried to cover as quickly as possible, not to get too hung up with putting the exact color down, because I can always modify the color. But I'm loading my brush. This is the scene. I'm loading my brush and only using mineral spirits to keep my brush clean.
You could probably tell.
And I'm changing the way I apply the paint too. You see how I'm changing the angle of my brush, you know, thinking about shapes. So this is in the foreground, so it's warmer, so it's coming in front of that hill. And I will post the finished painting when I do the second stage. I'm going to work on the painting, finishing and signing it in the studio. So I've got a top plane. This is kind of a shadow note here. And this is the foreground, so I'm putting in colors that are going to come forward. So I'm also dealing with aerial perspective in the first stage. It's like a dance when I'm painting. It's like, I think your brushwork is something that you develop over time. You can't practice your brushwork. It's like your signature. So now I'm putting some warmth in the sky, which I will eventually add my local color of blue to the same value. So like I say, everything doesn't have to be perfect because I know that I can come back and I can change.